The log splitter is a fairly easy machine to operate. It consists of a hydraulic cylinder attached to a wedge, which moves across a log cradle and pushes through the wood. Here I have a log on the cradle and I move the lever forward to move the wedge, and almost instantly the wedge splits the wood open. Usually this is the case. Usually the wood splits open right away and you can back off, move the log, reposition, and split again. But if there are lots of knots in the particular log you are trying to split, it could prove necessary to go all the way with the wedge, as shown here. Make sure that when you're operating a log splitter that you do not put your fingers on top of the log when the wedge is moving forward. Doing so could cause pinching with your fingers, especially when pulling back and having the log go back into its normal form. It's also important to keep your work area clear of any debris, logs, or pieces of firewood. You do not want to trip while you're stacking this wood or piling it aside. I keep a walkway along where I'm grabbing logs to load them onto the log cradle, and then once they're split, I try to move them out of the way, out of my walkway. You'll also notice that there are quite a bit of pieces that fall off to the side. I let them accumulate for a little while, usually, and once they pile up too high though, I will move them out of the way onto a pile to be stacked later. Other safety considerations I take into account are wearing sunglasses for protective eyewear, and I also have some ear protection because though not extremely loud, this motor running for hours and hours at a time, I don't need that ringing in my ears for eternity. So with this Douglas fir log, I split it open, then I flipped it, and then I'm going to split it again. Sometimes an easy rotation is all you need to do for the next split. I prefer triangle pieces, triangle shaped pieces, because they're a bit easier to stack. In all the hours using this machine, it has yet to really bog down on any tough log. I will note that make sure your wedge goes into the log evenly, because if it gets off kilter, it could shoot to the side and possibly hurt you. It may not look like a very dangerous machine, but under that kind of pressure, anything can happen. I was a little skeptical at first of the 3.5 horsepower Briggs and Straton gasoline engine turning the hydraulic pump, but after putting some hours on the machine, it has proved itself. It prefers to run 92 octane non-ethanol fuel, and doing so, I've been able to start the thing first pull with the choke on every time, and able to move the choke over and have it run like a top. On some of the heavier logs, I used a chainsaw to cut them in half so they were easier to load onto the log cradle. and that log splits up fairly easily with just a little bit of hydraulic pressure. Notice the wedge returning, and I look at my walkway and notice some obstructions in my walk path. I definitely do not want to trip on them, so I move a few of those out of the way and continue working on the log. I was impressed with the fuel efficiency of the 3.5 horse Briggs and Straton engine. Did not misfire and ran solidly without even feeling like it put much of a load on it for hours and hours. Thank you for watching In the Mountains. Please subscribe, hit the like button,